The message from the humans spread fast through the galaxy. Every empire, every trade network, and every secret military outpost heard the same transmission. This is Terran Command Vessel Resolute. You are entering restricted space. Identify purpose or retreat immediately. Some thought it was a threat. Others thought it was a joke. But to the Arvani Alliance, it was a warning they would never forget. After returning home, Commander Sarath stood before the Council of Peace. The room was filled with bright lights and tall pillars carved from silver stone. Thousands of diplomats, scientists, and leaders listened in silence as Sarath described the encounter. He told them how one single human warship disabled an entire fleet without firing a shot. He spoke of the voice that carried no emotion yet filled every soul with unease. When he finished, the room stayed silent for a long time. Finally, the council speaker, an old and wise Arvani, asked the question everyone feared. Do you believe they would attack us if we tried again? Sarath shook his head. No, they do not want war. But they are ready for it. They are prepared in ways we cannot understand. His words carried honesty, and that honesty made the entire hall colder. The Arvani had lived in peace for centuries. They believed knowledge and kindness could calm any storm. But now they had seen a civilization that built peace through strength. It was something their ancestors once did long ago, before they chose to forget the art of war. Far away, in another corner of the galaxy, a different species listened to the same transmission, the Dravari Empire. They were not like the Arvani. They were conquerors, proud and cruel. Their fleets had burned worlds and enslaved weaker races. To them, the message from the humans was not a warning. It was a challenge. The Dravari Emperor slammed his fist on the armrest of his throne and laughed. One ship tells us to retreat? Let us see if these humans can speak so proudly when they face a real fleet. Orders were sent instantly. A group of 10 Dravari warships began moving toward human space. Back aboard the Resolute, Admiral Holt stood in the command deck, watching star maps update in real time. A red signal appeared near the edge of Terran territory. Dravari fleet detected, his tactical officer said. Holt's face stayed calm, but inside he already knew what this meant. They heard our message, he murmured. And now they want to test it. He turned toward his second-in-command. Prepare for defense. No first strike. Let them come. As the Dravari ships approached, their commanders laughed over open channels. Terran Command, one of them said mockingly. We come in peace, just as your friends did. Perhaps we can learn from each other. Holt didn't reply. The human ship's engines glowed faint blue, charging silently. Around the Resolute, small drones deployed, invisible to the eye, forming a defense grid. The humans had learned long ago that arrogance destroys empires. They would let the Dravari make the first move. Minutes later, a Dravari cruiser fired a plasma bolt across space. It didn't hit the Resolute, but it came close enough to burn its shields. That was all the permission Holt needed. Engage, he said quietly. The ship moved faster than anything the Dravari had seen. Its main cannon glowed white-hot, then fired. A beam of light cut across the void, hitting the Dravari cruiser squarely. The entire enemy ship vanished in a flash. No explosion, just silence. The rest of the fleet froze. The Dravari tried to return fire, but every missile, every plasma shot missed. Their targeting systems went blind. The humans had hacked their networks mid-battle, feeding them false readings. Impossible, shouted the Dravari captain. But it was already too late. The Resolute fired again. Another enemy ship disappeared. The rest turned to retreat, but even as they fled, the human voice came again through open comms. You came in peace. Remember that next time. The battle lasted less than 2 minutes. 10 ships entered human space. Only 3 survived. The rest were gone, erased like dust in sunlight. Across the galaxy, the story spread again, but this time it carried fear. The human warship does not fight for conquest, people whispered, but it never loses. Back on the Arvani homeworld, Sarath watched the footage secretly sent by Terran Command. He couldn't understand why the humans shared it, but he felt the message clearly. Humans didn't want followers. They wanted respect. They warned us, he said quietly. And now the galaxy will listen. The council decided to send an envoy, not with gifts, but with truth. They would ask the humans to teach them not how to fight, but how to be strong again. Meanwhile, aboard the Resolute, Admiral Holt looked out the viewport at the stars. They'll keep coming, said his second-in-command. Others will test us. Holt nodded slowly. Then we'll keep showing them what peace through strength means. We fight only to protect it. For a brief moment he thought about Earth, now distant and quiet. Humanity had once been divided by greed and hate. They had burned their own skies, fought their own wars, and almost destroyed themselves. But out of that fire they had built something new, a kind of peace no other race could understand, a peace guarded by warships like the Resolute, by people who remembered what it cost to survive. In the dark of space, the ship moved silently again, patrolling the borders no one dared to cross, and somewhere in the vast galaxy whispers grew louder. Do not to the Dravari survivors limped back to their empire, ships torn and burnt, pride shattered. Their hulls still carried the heat marks from the human weapon. Inside the main cruiser, Captain Vorn stared at the stars with hollow eyes. The humans hadn't just defeated them, they had erased their confidence. When his fleet arrived at the Dravari capital, silence filled the docks. The mighty warriors who once crushed planets now walked like ghosts. Inside the Emperor's hall, the air trembled with power. Emperor Threk stood tall on his throne of black steel, surrounded by fire-lit banners. His voice echoed through the chamber. You faced them. Speak. Who are these humans? Vorn bowed his head. They are not conquerors, my emperor. They are protectors, and they do not fear death. The court erupted with laughter, mocking his words. Threk slammed his fist, silencing them. Protectors? Then what are they protecting? Vorn raised his eyes. Their peace, and they will destroy anything that threatens it. The emperor leaned back, amused but intrigued. Peace through power, he murmured. I like them already. But in his heart ambition burned. He wanted to know how humans became so strong. He wanted their secrets, their technology, their discipline, so he sent spies. Thousands of invisible drones disguised as meteoroids and trade beacons toward human borders. What the Dravari didn't know was that humanity had already seen them coming. On board the Resolute, Admiral Holt stood over the holographic map. Red markers lit up one by one, identifying each Dravari drone. His officers worked quietly, their movements confident and calm. They're watching, said the tactical officer. They want to learn. Holt nodded slowly. Then let them watch. Instead of destroying the drones, he ordered the fleet to broadcast false data, fake ship blueprints, empty signal trails, even staged patrol routes. Humanity wanted to control the story. They had learned long ago that information was the most powerful weapon in the universe. Weeks passed. The Dravari gathered everything their spies sent, unaware that most of it was false. They studied the fake data and began building ships based on human designs. But when their scientists tested the new weapons, everything failed. The engines collapsed, the energy reactors exploded, and the weapon systems melted. The Emperor's rage filled the Empire. They tricked us, he shouted. They are playing with us. Back on Earth, deep inside the Terran Command Citadel, a meeting was taking place. Generals, scientists, and diplomats gathered around a table of shimmering glass. On the screen behind them, footage of the destroyed Dravari fleet played in silence. They will come again, said one of the generals. Stronger, angrier. Admiral Holt, standing near the edge, replied, Let them come. Every time they attack, they teach the galaxy why peace with humanity is better than war. The room fell quiet. The humans didn't seek glory. They sought survival through balance, a kind of peace that could only exist under the shadow of strength. Far across the stars, the Arvani watched with growing fear. They had tried to open friendship. The Dravari had tried war, and both had failed in different ways. Their Council of Peace debated endlessly. Some believed humanity should be avoided forever. Others believed they must learn from them. Commander Sarath supported the second view. They are not monsters, he said. They are mirrors. They show us what peace costs if we forget how to protect it. His words began to change the Council's thinking. Quietly, the Arvani sent envoys carrying messages of cooperation, not as equals but as students seeking to learn. Meanwhile, in orbit above a gas giant, the Resolute received strange readings. Unknown signals, not Dravari or Arvani. Another empire, asked the communications officer. Holt frowned. The signal wasn't a language. It was a pattern, steady, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. It wasn't a threat. It was something else. The ship analyzed it, translating bits of data. The result was unexpected. An ancient beacon, thousands of years old, buried deep in the planet's rings. Origin? Holt asked. The AI responded, unknown. Possibly pre-human. Holt looked out the viewport, deep in thought. Before us? He whispered. Humanity had explored far, but this signal felt different, older than any known civilization. He sent a message to Earth requesting research teams. If something existed before humanity that powerful, they needed to know. Back in Dravari space, Emperor Threx's scientists finally discovered the truth. The false data from humanity wasn't just lies, it contained hidden code. Inside the ship schematics, deep in the mathematics, were encrypted messages that repeated the same phrase, "Peace is earned, not given." It drove the Emperor into fury. "They mock us," he shouted. But in secret he began to understand. Perhaps the humans weren't the real enemy. Perhaps they were the next step in evolution. As days passed, the Dravari Empire grew quieter. Their fleet stopped advancing. Their broadcast turned silent. For the first time in history, they began to fear, not because they were weaker, but because they realized how blind they had been. Humanity had shown them a truth their weapons could not erase. Back on the Resolute, Admiral Holt received word that the Dravari had ceased all hostilities. The crew cheered quietly, but Holt didn't smile. He knew fear never lasted. Sooner or later, someone else would rise, someone who didn't believe the stories. He turned toward the window, watching the endless black void. "We're not gods," he said softly. "We're survivors, and survivors always prepare." Far away in the deep cold of space, the ancient beacon continued to pulse. Its rhythm changed slightly, as if responding to the human signal. For the first time in centuries, something inside it woke up, and across the galaxy, systems began detecting strange movements in the void, signals that no one had seen since before recorded time. Humanity. The beacon's pulse echoed across the void, a slow rhythm that seemed almost alive. The Resolute floated in orbit above the swirling gas giant, its dark silhouette outlined by lightning flashes in the planet's upper atmosphere. Admiral Holt stood on the command bridge, staring at the holographic display of the signal pattern. It wasn't random. It repeated every 23 seconds with slight tonal changes. "It's speaking," murmured Lieutenant Mara, the ship's signal analyst. "Not to us, but to something else." The thought unsettled everyone. Humanity had fought wars, survived extinction, and faced alien empires. But this was something older than time itself. Holt ordered a probe to descend into the planet's rings. As it drifted closer, the beacon's pulse grew stronger, shaking the probe's sensors. For a moment, the live feed flickered, then cleared. The image showed a massive black structure buried under ice and debris. It wasn't a ship. It was a temple. "Retrieve what you can," Holt ordered. The crew launched retrieval drones, each equipped with magnetic arms and scanners. As they pulled fragments from the ice, strange energy readings filled the air. The power source wasn't nuclear or plasma, it was biological. "This isn't just technology," Mara whispered. "It's alive." When the first piece reached the Resolute, the ship's power flickered. Systems rebooted, lights dimmed, and the AI froze for 3 seconds. Then unexpectedly, a voice echoed through the main channel. Not from any crew member, but from the artifact itself. "Who disturbs?" The silence? The bridge went silent. Every crew member froze as the voice continued, deep and mechanical, yet filled with emotion. "The Watchers sleep no more. The key has turned again." Holt exchanged a look with his officers. "AI translation?" he asked, but Mara shook her head. "It's speaking in perfect English." Holt's pulse quickened. "Patch it through the ship-wide archive. I want every word recorded." The artifact glowed faint blue, releasing small tendrils of light that stretched across the containment field. The energy levels rose, and the ship's shields automatically increased to contain it. Then from the holographic projector, a faint figure began to appear. Humanoid, but not human. Its form was tall, translucent, and made of pure light. Its face was featureless except for 2 glowing eyes that shifted between gold and silver. "You are not the creators," it said. "But you carry their echo." Holt stepped forward cautiously. "Who are the creators?" The figure tilted its head. "Those who came before, the architects of silence. We kept the stars alive until they fell to chaos." It paused, then added, "You are their children, though time forgot." The bridge filled with whispers. The humans had always believed they were the first intelligent species from Earth to reach the stars. Now it seemed they might have inherited something ancient. Holt kept his composure. "What is your purpose?" he asked. The figure's light flickered like a dying star. "To awaken when the galaxy forgets balance." to remind it that peace without wisdom leads to extinction. Before Holt could ask more, alarms blared. The artifact's energy spiked uncontrollably. "Containment failing?" shouted Mara. The hologram turned toward Holt. "They will come for me now," it said. "They always do." Then the light vanished and every system on the Resolute went offline for 10 full seconds. When power returned, the artifact was silent. A few hours later, a transmission arrived from Terran Command. "Admiral Holt," said the voice of General Klein, the Earth Defense Council's head, "you've triggered something. Multiple long-range satellites have detected unknown signals coming from deep space, identical to your beacon's frequency." Holt frowned. "How many signals?" The general's tone darkened. "At least 50. Across 6 star systems." The room filled with tension. Humanity wasn't alone anymore, not just among modern species, but ancient ones awakening from forgotten time. Holt ordered the fleet to form a perimeter. The Resolute's drones scanned for incoming movement. Within hours, they detected several unidentified objects emerging from the planet's rings. They weren't ships in any normal sense. They were long, dark, and silent, shaped like blades. No heat, no radiation, no life signatures, just pure motion. "They're not attacking," Mara said, her voice low. "They're watching." The ghostly figures drifted through space, positioning themselves in formation. Then one emitted a low hum that vibrated through the Resolute's hull. The AI translated it after several attempts. Guardians returning to duty. Admiral Holt realized the horrifying truth. The artifact hadn't called for help. It had called for guards. Whatever civilization built it had left behind machines to protect their legacy, and now after eons humanity had awakened them. "Contact Earth," Holt ordered. "We need a full council. The galaxy just changed." Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. Some feared it was the beginning of a new war. Others saw it as proof that humanity's survival instinct was part of something greater, an ancient design. Religious groups called it divine inheritance. Scientists called it evidence of pre-human civilization. But one thing was certain. Every empire, including the Dravari and the Arvani, began to take notice. In Dravari space, Emperor Threx watched the reports with unease. "Ancients?" he said quietly. So the humans weren't the first. His advisors suggested ignoring the discovery, but he couldn't. "If the humans have awakened something powerful, we must understand it before they do," he ordered. Secretly, he dispatched an expedition fleet to the same sector. Meanwhile, the Arvani Council, guided by Serath, made a different choice. "We should help them," Serath said. "If these ancients shaped us all, then humanity may be our only chance to understand their purpose." The Council hesitated, but fear of the unknown pushed them to act. They sent a peace fleet not armed, but equipped with knowledge and communication tools. Back on the Resolute, Holt watched the silent guardians drift in the darkness. They didn't attack, but he could feel their presence like eyes in the void. "Do you think they're hostile?" Mara asked softly. Holt shook his head. "No, they're waiting for something to happen, and I think we've just become part of it." In the distance, the beacon pulsed again, brighter than before. This time, every guardian responded in unison. The hum grew louder until the entire planet below trembled. Holt stared in awe as a massive shape began to emerge from beneath the gas clouds. A structure the size of a continent, rising slowly into space. It wasn't a ship. It was a city. And in the center of that city, a single light flickered to life, forming the same symbol that once appeared on the artifact. Humanity had awakened the architects of silence. The galaxy would never be the same again, had protected its peace well, but now, something older was listening. The ancient city drifted slowly out of the gas giant's atmosphere, glowing with faint golden light. Its design was beyond anything human science could understand. Smooth metallic surfaces that bent light itself, structures that floated without visible support, and a strange energy humming beneath its surface like a heartbeat. The Resolute watched from orbit, its sensors struggling to keep up with the data. Admiral Holt stood motionless, eyes fixed on the holographic display. "It's alive," he said quietly. The artifact aboard the ship began to glow again, resonating with the same frequency as the city below. It pulsed once, twice, and then stopped. The bridge lights flickered, and suddenly, the Resolute's communication systems were flooded with a signal. It wasn't static or language. It was music. deep, haunting tones that carried through every speaker. "It's contacting Earth," Mara whispered. "Directly." Thousands of light years away on Earth, the Terran command citadel trembled as the same sound echoed through their networks. Every system, from orbiting satellites to civilian devices, lit up with a single message: "Children of Sol, the silence ends." Across the planet, panic erupted. Scientists and military officers rushed to decode the signal, but it was beyond encryption. It seemed alive, adapting as they analyzed it. Within hours, Earth's skies filled with strange lights. Energy storms danced over the poles, and communication satellites began receiving unknown data streams. The United Earth Council declared an emergency. General Klein contacted Admiral Holt. "You've triggered something we can't stop. That city, whatever it is, it's rewriting our systems." Holt remained calm. "Then we learn before it finishes." He ordered a shuttle to descend to the surface of the floating city. The landing team consisted of Holt, Mara, and 2 engineers. As they approached the city, the clouds parted, revealing a vast platform glowing faint blue. The shuttle touched down softly, and the moment the door opened, gravity shifted slightly, gentle but unnatural. The air was breathable. The city wanted them alive. They stepped out, weapons lowered. The structures rose around them like monuments of glass and light. Strange symbols flowed across the walls like water. "It's not abandoned," Mara said softly. "It's waiting," Holt nodded. "Keep recording." They reached what looked like a central chamber, a circular hall surrounded by pillars of floating light. At its center stood a tall figure made of translucent material, perfectly still. The moment Holt approached, it moved. Its body shimmered with symbols as it spoke. "You are the heirs," it said. "The flame continues," Holt asked cautiously. "Who built this place?" The figure's gaze turned upward, as if looking through the ceiling and into the stars. "The ones who seeded the void? They called themselves the architects. They built peace from ruin, and then vanished." Its tone darkened. "We were left behind to guard their legacy until another species rose strong enough to bear the weight of their silence." Mara frowned. "Are you saying humans were created by them?" The figure nodded. "Not created, guided. You were born of chaos, as we all were. But your world was touched by their code. It lives within your design, hidden in your DNA." The words froze everyone in place. Holt's mind raced. Humanity's myths of gods, their ancient stories about beings from the sky. It all began to make sense. "Why contact us now?" he asked. The figure's light dimmed slightly. "Because the silence is breaking. Others have awakened. The watchers who turned against the architects, they return." Before Holt could respond, the city shook violently. Energy waves rippled through the structures. Mara scanned the readings. Multiple objects approaching fast, unknown class. Holt's voice hardened. "Return to the ship." They ran back to the shuttle as the city's golden glow turned crimson. Massive shapes emerged from the darkness. Dark ships, silent, shaped like jagged blades. Back aboard the Resolute, the crew watched as dozens of these dark vessels surrounded the ancient city. "They're not Dravari," Mara said. "No known design matches." Holt stared at the main screen. "Then those must be the Watchers." The dark ships began firing beams of red energy into the city, tearing through its defenses. The Golden Lights tried to fight back, but for every blast they fired, 3 more ships appeared. "Should we engage?" asked the weapons officer. Holt hesitated. "If we interfere, we risk being seen as enemies by both sides." Then the holographic figure reappeared on the bridge, its voice echoing with urgency. "Protect the key. They cannot take it." Holt realized the artifact aboard the Resolute was the key it meant. "All hands, battle stations," he commanded. "Defend the ship." The Resolute fired its rail cannons, cutting through 2 enemy ships instantly. The remaining ones turned their attention toward the humans. Beams of red energy lashed out, shaking the hull. Shields flickered but held. "Evasive pattern Delta 9. Holt shouted. The ship spun, engines flaring bright blue, dodging incoming fire. Drones deployed, surrounding the Resolute like a storm of metal and light. Meanwhile, below them, the ancient city began to collapse. Its towers fell inward as a massive explosion of golden light tore through its center. The Watcher ships retreated suddenly, vanishing into the void as if swallowed by darkness. When the light faded, only fragments remained. The city was gone. Silence filled the bridge. Holt looked down at the artifact, still pulsing faintly in containment. "It's still alive," Mara said quietly. Holt nodded. "Then so is the message." He knew this wasn't over. Whatever the architects were, whatever the Watchers had become, humanity was now caught between them. Back on Earth, the global network stabilized. The strange storms faded, but in every major city, people began to see the same thing in the night sky, a faint moving constellation that hadn't existed before. A new pattern shaped like a spiral. It wasn't random. It was a signal. And somewhere in deep space, far beyond human reach, the Watchers watched the flickering of that same spiral. "They found the key," one of them whispered in a language older than light. "Then it begins again." The Watchers' ships retreated into the dark, leaving behind silence and wreckage. The ancient city drifted in pieces, glowing faintly like dying embers. The Resolute floated nearby, shield still humming, its hull scarred and smoking. Admiral Holt stood at the bridge window, his reflection merging with the stars. He had seen war before, but nothing like this. These weren't invaders driven by greed or conquest. They were something older, colder, patient. Earth Command hailed him moments later. General Klein's image appeared on the main holoscreen, his expression tight. "We've decoded part of the beacon transmission," he said. It wasn't just a message. It was a warning. "About them." Holt's brow furrowed. "The Watchers?" "Yes," Klein replied. "The architects built them as guardians. But over time, the Watchers decided the galaxy was too chaotic. They began to preserve order by erasing life. The architects sealed them away before disappearing. When your team reactivated the beacon, you woke both sides." The words hung in the air like cold steel. Holt knew what it meant. Humanity had started something ancient. The question now was whether they could survive it. Elsewhere on the Arvani homeworld, Commander Sarath stared at the same broadcast replayed through the interstellar newsnet. The image of the floating city and the Watchers' attack was everywhere. The Arvani Council was divided. Some wanted to isolate themselves, others wanted to stand with the humans. Sarath stood before them once more. "We cannot hide," he said. "If the humans fall, we will be next." Their warship did not destroy, it defended. "They carry the courage our ancestors lost." His voice cut through the chamber like fire. The council voted unanimously. They would join humanity. Back aboard the Resolute, a coded message arrived from the Arvani fleet. "We come in peace, ready to stand." Holt smiled faintly. "At least someone learned the right lesson," he said. "Prepare docking corridors for their ships." The Arvani arrived 2 days later, sleek silver vessels shaped like wings of light. When their ambassador stepped aboard, she looked around the Resolute with cautious admiration. "Your ship fights like a storm," she said. Holt replied quietly, "And your people still believe in peace. That's something worth defending." Together they formed the first human-alien alliance fleet, small, but united by survival. Engineers from both species worked side by side, combining technology. Arvani light shields merged with human reactors, creating defenses stronger than either had known alone. Holt called the project Unity Protocol. It was more than a weapon, it was hope. But hope never lasted long. Deep in Dravari space, Emperor Threx watched the same events unfold with cold fury. "Humans and Arvani together," he muttered. "They think they can command the stars?" His advisors urged caution, but Threx's pride was a wound that never healed. He ordered his scientists to activate an ancient relic found decades ago, a fragment similar to the human artifact. As it powered up, it emitted the same pulse that had awakened the Watchers. The skies above Dravari Prime darkened as something massive answered the call. Back on the Resolute, alarms rang. "New energy surge detected. Coordinates match Dravari sector," Mara shouted. Holt turned sharply. The fools activated another beacon. The holographic figure from the artifact flickered to life again, its voice urgent. "The second key has turned. The gate will open." Holt demanded, "What gate?" The figure looked toward the stars. "The path the Watchers used to cross the void. They are returning, all of them." Humanity's peace fleet didn't wait. Within hours, the Resolute and Arvani escorts jumped toward Dravari space. When they arrived, it was already too late. The skies above Dravari Prime had split open, a black rift swirling with light. Ships emerged from it silent and endless, their hulls reflecting nothing. The Watchers had come. The Dravari fired everything they had. Missiles, plasma, antimatter rounds all vanished on contact. The Watchers absorbed the energy, their ships growing brighter with each impact. Holt ordered the fleet to engage from orbit. "Target the rift," he shouted. The Resolute's cannons roared, firing concentrated energy into the black hole. The Arvani ships followed, forming a defensive ring around the planet. For the first time in centuries, three civilizations fought side by side. But the Watchers were relentless. Their energy beams sliced through fleets like paper. Ships exploded one by one, burning across the night sky. Holt's ship trembled under heavy fire. "Shields at 40%, Mara called. "We can't hold much longer." Holt gritted his teeth. "Divert power from everything, keep firing." Then unexpectedly, the artifact on the bridge began to glow again, blinding white light filling the room. The holographic figure appeared, its voice louder than ever. "You are the flame. You must finish what your creators began." The artifact fused itself into the ship's power core, merging with it. Energy readings spiked off the charts. The Resolute transformed, its hull shimmered, its cannons glowed like stars. "Admiral," said Mara, awe in her voice. "The ship, it's changing." Holt gave a single command. "Then let's make history." The Resolute turned toward the rift and fired. The beam that erupted from its bow wasn't just light. It was something else. It tore through the rift's heart, splitting the sky open in a wave of white fire. The Watchers screamed, their ships folding inward as the rift began to collapse. When the light faded, only silence remained. The Dravari homeworld was scorched but intact. The Watchers had vanished back into the void. The Resolute drifted in orbit, its hull cracked, engines fading. Inside, the crew looked around in disbelief. "We did it," Mara whispered. Holt exhaled slowly. "No, we survived. There's a difference." The Alliance fleet gathered around the damaged human ship. Messages flooded in from across the galaxy. Arvani, Dravari, even smaller races, all sending the same phrase, "The flame endures." Humanity had done more than fight. They had awakened hope. Later, as Earth celebrated and the stars quieted, Holt stood alone on the observation deck. The artifact sat beside him, its light dim but steady. "You said we are the flame," he murmured. "What happens now?" The hologram flickered one last time. "Now you build. And remember, peace without strength will always invite the dark." Outside, the stars shimmered brighter, as if the galaxy itself was breathing again. Humanity, once alone, now stood at the center of something far greater. A reborn alliance forged not from fear, but from unity. And in the farthest reaches of the void, beyond where any signal could reach, a single Watcher eye opened once more, whispering in the dark, "The flame burns again. We will return." The galaxy was quiet but not peaceful. The war with the Watchers had ended, or so it seemed. In the ashes of battle, the humans, Arvani, and even the humbled Dravari began to rebuild what remained. Yet in that silence, every admiral, every leader, every mind that looked toward the stars felt the same unease. Something had survived on the other side of the rift. Admiral Holt stood on the bridge of the Resolute, now half rebuilt, its new hull fused with Arvani crystal and Dravari alloys. The ship was stronger, faster, and stranger than ever before. Engineers called it a miracle. To Holt, it was a reminder of the price paid. The artifact, once a separate relic, was now part of the ship itself. Its faint pulse echoed like a heartbeat through the walls. "She's alive," Mara said softly one day, placing her hand on a bulkhead. Holt nodded. Maybe she always was. The Resolute led the new Alliance fleet, the Terran Accord. It wasn't an empire nor a single nation, but a promise. Humans, Arvani, and Dravari ships now flew under one shared insignia, a burning spiral star encircled by 3 wings. Their mission was simple, to find what remained of the architects and uncover the full truth of the Watchers. Their first lead came from a deep space probe that detected faint energy, readings from a dead system beyond known charts. The readings matched the same frequency as the ancient beacon. The fleet set course immediately. Days passed in silence. The stars grew darker, older as they neared the outer rim of the galaxy. Space itself seemed to thicken, a quiet, cold stretch of void untouched by light. When they arrived, they found no planets, no stars, just a field of debris. Metal shards the size of moons, each carved with the same runes seen on the artifact. Mara's voice was almost a whisper. "It's a graveyard." Scans showed millions of wrecks, ships older than any known civilization drifting endlessly. Holt stared at the hologram, realizing what they were seeing. This was their final battle, he said. The architects died here. The fleet moved deeper into the debris field. Suddenly, the Resolute's sensors picked up an energy pulse from the center. It was weak, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat again. Source? Holt asked. A structure, replied Mara. Massive. Buried beneath the wreckage, Holt gave the order to approach. As they drew closer, the wrecks began to move. Not because of engines, but gravity distortions. Something's pulling them in, Mara said. The entire field is orbiting that structure. They cleared the last stretch of debris, and there it was. A black sphere the size of a small moon, surrounded by rings of shattered ships. The surface shimmered with strange reflections, bending space around it. The artifact in the Resolute began to glow violently, matching the sphere's pulse. It's responding, Holt said. Prepare a landing team. The shuttle descended into the dark. As they neared the surface, they realized the sphere wasn't solid. It was a shell, a gateway. Patterns of light ran across its surface, forming symbols that shifted as if alive. Holt reached out and touched the console. This isn't a tomb, he said. It's a vault. They entered through a vast corridor of light. Inside, gravity returned, but everything was silent. The walls were smooth and warm, glowing faintly beneath their footsteps. In the center stood a massive chamber lined with statues of the architects. Tall, graceful beings, neither mechanical nor organic, their eyes carved from shimmering crystal. Mara approached a console-like pedestal. Looks like a control interface. The moment she touched it, the chamber came alive. Holographic light filled the air and a voice spoke. Calm, ancient, echoing through every corridor. You are late, children of Sol. The figure's eyes lit up, and one of them turned toward the humans. We knew this day would come. The flame would find its way back. Holt stepped forward, his voice steady. You're the architects? The figure nodded slowly. What remains of us? We are echoes bound to memory. The hologram flickered, revealing scenes of the past, golden cities across the stars, civilizations thriving under the architect's guidance. Then came darkness, massive watcher fleets consuming worlds, erasing light. We built them to protect creation, the voice said. But they saw life as imperfection. We tried to end them. But in doing so, we doomed ourselves. Holt clenched his fists. Then why leave all this behind? Why guide us? The figure turned its gaze directly on him. Because you are what we could not be. You feel fear yet still move forward. You create from destruction. You are the balance we failed to achieve. Before Holt could respond, alarms blared through the chamber. The floor trembled. Outside, the fleet reported massive energy spikes. Something's emerging from the sphere's surface. Mara shouted. The holograms turned grim. They found us, the architect said. The Watchers have returned. Holt activated his comms. All units prepare for defense. The Resolute fired its thrusters, pulling back from the surface as enormous black vessels materialized from the void. Sleek, angular, alive with red energy veins. The Watchers had tracked the beacon here. Inside the chamber, the architect's hologram looked toward Holt one last time. You cannot destroy them, only contain them. But there is a way, a signal that resets their code. It lies beyond the edge of your galaxy, in the place you call the Rift. The hologram faded, leaving only a single glowing shard in the air. Mara grabbed it, holding it tight. We have the key, Holt nodded grimly. Then we end this, for good. Outside, the battle began. The Arvani and Dravari fleets moved in perfect unison with the humans, their ships weaving between watcher beams. The Resolute unleashed its full power, firing bursts of white plasma that tore through enemy formations. Explosions rippled across the void, painting the darkness in fire. But the Watchers kept coming. For every ship destroyed, 2 more emerged. Holt looked toward the black sphere as it began to collapse under the energy surge. Pull back, he shouted. All ships retreat. The Resolute turned sharply, engines roaring. Behind them, the sphere imploded, consuming the entire field in light. The explosion hurled the ship across space, systems shutting down one by one. When the chaos cleared, silence returned. The sphere was gone. The Watchers vanished. Only the shard in Mara's hand glowed faintly. It survived, she whispered. Holt looked at the distant stars. So did we. Back aboard the Resolute, the crew gathered around the artifact. Holt placed his hand on it. Set a course, he said. To the Rift, The architects gave us a final task. The ship's engines ignited, glowing brighter than ever before, and as the Resolute vanished into the deep unknown, the stars behind them shimmered, watching, waiting. Somewhere far ahead, beyond the edge of creation, the final truth of the architects awaited. The war was not over. It was only beginning again.